Today, you can enjoy a nice meal in what is known as the Mattox building at 135 West Main Street. Today, provisions. However, decades ago, this building was home to a very popular hardware store, Harpster and Helzer, and was the site of one of Lancaster's most devastating fires. On August 13, 1947, Lancaster police officers Lloyd Kreider and Howard Lynch were on patrol and driving downtown. Around 1:15 a.m., they were on the 100 block of West Main Street, headed west toward Memorial Drive, when Kreider smelled smoke. Lynch circled the block and returned to the area to investigate. Looking up, Kreider noticed smoke coming from the third floor of the Mattox building. Lynch immediately used his radio to alert the fire department as Kreider entered the building. Kreider made it to the third floor before the heat and smoke drove him out of the building. Lancaster firefighters quickly arrived on scene and began running hoses in all directions. Firefighters were deployed on the roofs of the two buildings to the east and west, the Reed Drug Store and the Lyric Theater, to pour water onto the burning structure. Several firefighters also made their way inside to fight the blaze from below. The fire continued to grow, and at one point was described as a roaring inferno. However, around 3:30 a.m., the fire was considered under control and the heavy streams of water were cut off, leaving only small hoses to douse any remaining embers. As the fire subsided, another problem began to emerge, as firefighters noticed that the structure had become weakened by the heavy downpour of water. A few firefighters made their way to the second floor to investigate. They noticed beams and support pillars that were beginning to crumble, so they began chopping a hole in the floor to allow water to escape and alleviate the weight. At the same time, Captain George Keller, who was directing operations from the roof of the Reed Drug Store, began walking down Center Alley to assist in shutting off gas lines. He heard a rumbling sound and knew what was about to happen. At 3:40 a.m., the weight of the water caused the top of the building to sag and forced the west wall outward. That was the wall that Captain Keller was walking beside. A brick hit the back of Keller's head as he ducked and braced for impact. Debris quickly covered the captain, and he remained still until the noise stopped. He was then able to crawl to safety and pull himself from the rubble. The force of the collapse blew out all but one of the front windows. A police captain and store employee who were in front of the building were blown into the street as appliances were thrown out of the store and onto the sidewalk. The three firefighters who were inside the building were dropped to the first floor and covered with tons of debris. Within moments, the three-story structure was an empty shell and the west wall rested against the Lyric Theater. Efforts immediately began to rescue the trapped firefighters. Their fellow co-workers, police officers, and residents grabbed jacks and other tools to try and lift debris and rescue the trapped men. At 5:30 a.m., almost 2 hours after the collapse, Jack Urton was pulled from the wreckage. Harry Andrews was freed from two large beams at 5:45 a.m., and 15 minutes later, the last firefighter, Clement Brown, was rescued. Miraculously, nobody was killed in the disaster. A total of 8 firefighters were injured and taken to the hospital, but all of them recovered. The Lyric Theater and the Reed Drug Store suffered little damage. Some stock in the drugstore was damaged by water, but the building was not harmed. The Lyric suffered minor damage to the east exit doors, but amazingly, no shows were canceled, and both buildings opened as usual the next day. The hardware store reopened 1 year to the day after the building was destroyed, and the cause of the fire was never discovered. Be sure to look for more History Underfoot decals scattered around downtown Lancaster. And if you enjoy local history and want to learn more, become a member of the Fairfield County Heritage Association and stay up to date with all things history. You can join now at fairfieldheritage.com.